All right. All right. So, how many years have you been coaching
32.
in high school football?
Uh-huh.
Right. Um, you get to name a highlight of your coaching career. You got a highlight?
Well, the biggest highlights of my career would simply just be, what the game has, done for my family. So I've coached all four of my kids, won state championships with all four of them, and now I'm coaching with one of them and coaching the other two. So pretty interesting.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, so these are all confidential, so answer how you like. But is sportsmanship an important part of your coaching philosophy and why?
Well, I mean, everything's important, but getting kids and getting players to, play the game right, play it correctly, and still, honor the game itself and honor teammates and past teams. There's always a right way and a wrong way of doing things, and so it's not that we teach it just as sportsmanship itself. It's kind of just built into everything we do, so that kids are competing the right way.
So, what one event regarding good sportsmanship sticks out the most from your experiences?
I think big games. I think it sticks out. Well, I mean, it sticks out in all games, but it's good to see your players. When you're playing a team that doesn't match up as well with you, where they're just being kind to them on the field. Maybe helping them up, giving them a pat on the back, those types of things. Just kind of, in a way, just telling them that, hey, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. And so they do a good job with that. And then in the big games where the matchups are pretty intense, our kids they appreciate good play from our opponents too. So they're able to recognize outstanding talent and give those players and give those opposing coaches credit for that as well.
Awesome. Have you had any issues with players where you've had to reprimand them for unsportsmanlike conduct, either
Oh, every
practice
year.
or competition?
Yeah, every year. When you ask kids to train hard and when you ask them to play hard, and when you're always putting a 16, 17-year-old kid in a very stressful environment, there are negatives that come from this. And so, that's kind of why the adults are around, just to kind of help them get them back into that positive headspace, whether it be, physical actions or nonverbal or verbal. You kind of see the whole gamut. I mean, not all necessarily at once, but most teams are always going to have a certain percentage of kids on them that they know they just have to keep an eye on, because when things get, really, really tough mentally, sometimes the young person can crack a little bit. And so you just guide them and teach them so that they can, learn how to handle, intense conflict when they're an adult.
So, and then I guess to the next, like, how have you handled that on your team as far as like consequences, penalties?
Well, both. We try to handle everything just with it being a teaching moment where, our high school player understands the environment and the moment and can learn from it. But, at certain times, though, when things get repeated, usually consequences come from repeated actions. So once we got through the teaching of the moment phase, then if second occurrences, third occurrences, those have consequences above and beyond what consequences the league might have or the state might have for a particular violation during a particular.
So the next ones are more on like gamesmanship. Gamesmanship means, or you've heard that before? Or?
Well, gamesmanship is probably a very gray term.
Yeah.
We see it. I mean, we would probably define gamesmanship as, what can the adults do to gain a competitive advantage? Whereas sportsmanship is, it's a behavior, it's an attitude. Yeah. And that one of our core tenets is, we want our players to control what they can control, and that's attitude and effort. And so we see them both as being equal partners in this. We want great effort and we want great attitude. And then we just want them to respect their opponent and respect the game itself and to protect the game itself. But gamesmanship to me is, I mean, it could be any number of things. One of the most common things we see in sports like football and baseball is like stealing of signs.
Yeah.
That would be an example on what we would call gamesmanship.
Yeah.
If someone steals our signs, the way we look at it is we just blame ourselves for not being thorough enough and having a tight enough grasp on what it is we're doing for that week. And so we kind of blame ourselves if something like that happens.
Yeah, that's kind of what we say with gamesmanship, kind of just, that's what we're talking about, being two different terms, just like you're saying. So I guess then you consider gamesmanship, is it taking advantage of the rules? You see it as taking advantage of the rules as opposed to cheating?
No, I don't really think it's necessarily taking advantage of the rules, because in a contest of any type, rules should be black and white. Coaches' understandings and officials' understandings should also be black and white. But there may be disagreement on the interpretation, that happens often. I've disagreed with officials many times, and these are disagreements that happen either before or after a game, not during. I've always felt gamesmanship, though, was more of an adult thing than a player thing.
Yeah. Like we have an example we just did where it's in Little League, or it happened when I was younger, Pop Warner football, whatever. The wrong ball play where the coach is yelling. Wrong ball,
yeah, that type of stuff. Well, I don't even know if I would call that gamesmanship. I would say that if you're going to do things that fall under the umbrella of exotics, you better be good at it, or it's just going to turn around and embarrass you anyway. I remember a long time ago, we were playing a team. We were in the Sunflower League, and we were playing a team that did a lot of that. It kind of, without naming names or anything, it made our players angry that they were attempting that type of stuff. And as we explained to them, it's just their way of trying to feel like maybe they have a chance to compete. They're not doing it to be insulting or anything like that. But it got our players a little riled up because we had two of our linebackers actually had a conversation on the opposite sideline with the other head coach. And so if that was gamesmanship, I know that those two linebackers from back in the day did not appreciate it.
had that play pulled on us when I was 8th grade, I think, out here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we see stuff like that even today. But those are also things we prepare for in practice. I mean, we usually have 2 periods a week that deal with exotics and trick plays and things that could be used to maybe stretch a rule a little bit, or something that you're confident that you can get away with that an official's not going to see. I mean, we practice those things, so we don't really concern ourselves too much. 2 years ago, we were in the playoffs, and we were playing well, and our opponent was not playing as well as they would have liked. And right at the end of the half, they ran, an exotic trick play, and they executed it to perfection. And it was the one thing that they did in the first half that was successful for them. And, after the game, I mean, it was just, hey, good job. That was a well-called play.
Yes.
Your kids executed it perfectly. We defended it. We just did not defend it perfectly. And, but yeah, things like that do get people's, it gets them a little hot and bothered under the collar sometimes because it's not traditional.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, competition can't be traditional 100% of the time. So things like that actually add some juice and add some flavor to the game. So those are good things.
Yeah. All right. Well, last one here, just as suggestions for new coaches with regards to sportsman and gamesmanship philosophy.
I think, boy, I'll tell you what, when you talk about people getting into the coaching field, there's so many things to pay attention to, but, push your kids, but, treat them fairly, so, practice them hard and prepare them to the best of your ability. And, when the focus is, again, how hard do you play and how well do you control, your attitude? Again, those are 2 things that players can control. The coaches kind of control everything else, but, coach where you're at. There's too many people today that work harder trying to find their next job than they do working the job they currently have. And they may not think that it's visible, but, to the experienced group of people that have done this for so long, it's very visible. And you can always tell when someone's putting forth more effort to get to a new job than they are working the job they currently have. And so, yeah, it's just build great relationships with kids and build great relationships with parents and other coaches. And, you have to have a passion, for the sport you're in. It can't be a grind for you. If it's a grind, you're just not mentally in a good headspace to communicate with people. And so, because, so much of sports at the varsity level and above, there's just way too much stress involved if it's not fun, and if you don't have a clear vision on what it is you're trying to teach teach your young players. So, there's a million things that new coaches could focus on, but getting their kids to practice hard and just be great technicians in whatever sport there is that they're coaching. There's just so many things. I would suggest young people go to clinics and try to learn from the people who are presenting and speaking at those clinics, just so they can just continue to work on their craft. I mean, coaching is really no different than being a student. I mean, you go to class every day, you're supposedly, learning, getting smarter every day. Well, and, education is a lifelong pursuit. Well, athletics and coaching is the same thing. You really have to strive to get better every single day. And if you're not, your competition is. Yeah. And that's part of the environment where separation starts to come into the picture, where, this coaching staff's just better than that coaching staff. Well, it's because they probably put forth a lot more time and effort into getting to that point.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to end the recording there.
All right, cool.